Hello, my name is John Collick and I'm Head of International Education Strategy at Promethean. Well, here we are in 2021 and the United Kingdom is once more in a lockdown, with schools closed and students and teachers having to teach and learn online. 2020 showed us that we were not fully prepared to deal with the challenges we faced in schools in the midst of the pandemic. Having said that, despite extremely difficult circumstances, many teachers, heads and parents worked and will continue to work tirelessly to come up with innovative solutions to support students, sometimes at great risk to themselves. Education technology was tested and is still being tested to its limits. And for the first time, teachers all over the world were expected to learn new skills and use new systems or old systems in new ways in order to reach children. We'd often spoken about the role of online learning in education, and educators have been successfully using it for years to supplement their classroom practice through such approaches as flipped learning, building online communities, and facilitating learning outside the classroom. However, this was the first time it had been used to replace entire school-based systems. And it quickly became clear that despite everybody's best efforts, there was significant inequality in the level of education provided over the year due to connectivity issues and overall lack of access. As governments scrambled to get students and teachers online at the start of 2020, they faced significant problems. Globally, less than 20% of the world's population have access to broadband. Less than half have access to any kind of fixed line internet. Now, we tend to assume these are problems largely faced by developing societies, but in reality, issues of access and equity have appeared everywhere. What happens if you only have one computer at home and children who all need to study online at the same time? What if your connection doesn't have the necessary bandwidth to stream video classes, or the data rates are too expensive? Naturally, access in cities, in urban areas, amongst the affluent and the rich is easier. And the people who tend not to have access are those living in rural, poor, or remote or marginalised communities. However, even in supposedly wealthy countries like the UK, we've had examples of teachers having to personally deliver work to students on foot, like postal workers, and then collect the homework a few days later, because those children came from households that did not have adequate internet access. Of course, it's not just technological challenges that are facing us, the questions of infrastructure and affordability. The human factor is just as, if not more, crucial in tackling the crisis. Teachers and schools have done great work, often by themselves and using incredibly imaginative approaches and methods. However, the lack of preparation and training on how to use online systems in the case of teachers and how to help children learn effectively when at home has caused significant pressure on all those involved. Within the education technology industry, the onus really is on us, and we should be doing everything we can to ensure that the practitioners who use our solutions can do so to maximum effect without extra arduous training. Simple protocols, easily accessible learning resources mapped to the curriculum, and robust ongoing support are all crucial elements that we can and should provide. In the past, we've often spoken about the concept of connected learners, but the pandemic highlighted the extremes of access issues available to students. It also underscored something that perhaps we've partly forgotten in our pursuit of targets and outcomes and the overall digitization of learning. Education is fundamentally a social activity, developed over thousands of years by a species that is fundamentally social. When kids go to school, they're learning to be part of a community, as well as developing the skills and knowledge to contribute to that community. That's why the human interaction in the classroom is so important for learning. At its best, the classroom is a content-rich, vibrant learning hub where pupils develop crucial social skills and thrive, as we all do, from real-time contact with teachers and friends. Take children out of the classroom and isolate them, and you remove an essential component that drives the motivation to engage and learn. The classroom is about the artifacts and equipment in the room. It's about the posters and the prompts on the wall. The classroom is about having your own space to work. It's about the supportive environment. It's about being with friends and working in groups. The classroom is about learning to understand the boundaries and expectations, not only of education, but also society in general. And it's about a teacher delivering lessons in an engaging way. If we identify the social components a classroom provides that have been missing from the online experience, then we can develop approaches and support structures that will reintroduce, albeit at a much reduced level, these factors into a distance or hybrid learning approach. I think that the main components that we need to compensate for kids' inability to access the classroom are the following. We need to emulate the human social experience as much as possible. We need to aim for authenticity and familiarity. We need a community-based education, and we need to focus on skills and concepts, not content stuffing. But above all, we should focus on interaction, authenticity, and familiarity. So even when teaching is delivered online, it's better if it's delivered by a teacher the pupils know personally and that they can actually see during the session. Streaming a lesson delivered by somebody personally known to the students from a familiar classroom, even if that classroom is empty, is far more effective and more engaging than a sophisticated and interactive online education platform, which, while possibly entertaining and motivating for those who can access it, can also be impersonal. According to reports like the Promethean State of Technology in Education for 2020-2021, which is a survey of over 2,000 educators in the United Kingdom, student attainment is a clear goal for schools, and it's recognised that the best levels of education take place in the classroom with a qualified teacher who is there to guide, teach, and mentor. So any long-term solution we develop will need to embrace a combination of the classroom and the remote. This is hybrid learning. And the best way to think of hybrid learning is as a continuum with 100% classroom teaching at one end and 100% distance learning at the other. A properly implemented hybrid learning system allows education to operate at any point along this range. For example, you may have 30% of the pupils in class and 70% at home. It might be the other way around, or it might be 50-50. The home learning component needs to be available synchronously or asynchronously. Most importantly, this approach needs to support the needs of students now. And so we have to work with what we've got, as we don't have the luxury of time or the finances for a completely revolutionary overhaul of our education systems. The good news is that a hybrid learning approach allows for the incorporation of practical front-of-class technology, such as the Promethean Active Panel, to be used in combination with other technology solutions to deliver similar synchronous or asynchronous experiences to students who can join the classroom and those who unfortunately have to isolate. Furthermore, teachers can continue to use the assets they developed in class, thereby reducing the burden of having to recreate content from scratch in new and unfamiliar platforms. Teachers can also record lessons, and share those after the live class for students who can then access them on demand if they need to. This approach has a huge benefit of aiming for the authenticity and the familiarity that is such a key part of the social experience of learning. With everything else happening at the moment, we simply cannot burden teachers with excessive training for new solutions. Instead, we as technology providers need to adapt our solution to what they need. We have to ensure we provide access to training materials, content, and most importantly, community support for teachers, both online and offline. Teachers have done a fantastic job in meeting the challenges of the last year, but it has been at significant cost in terms of workload, stress, and overall well-being. It is our absolute duty to give them the help they need by supporting them in their repurposing of the familiar for this new world, while not overburdening them with new technologies. 2020 forced schools to evaluate how they use technology for the basics, for setting homework, teaching lessons, communicating with pupils. Many educators would like technology to blend seamlessly with traditional teaching methods. Yet, as the State of Technology in Education for 2020-2021 report showed, training is at a concerning all-time low. Only 1% of schools are prioritizing technology training, and 41% of respondents say that staff have had to find the time to train by themselves. For educators moving forward, the key considerations are where to invest in order to reap the greatest rewards. We need to consider the key goals and frameworks that were in place pre-COVID, and we need to determine which elements work and which need the modification for the new reality. For this reason, it is also very important to learn how to identify and avoid short-term, low-impact fads. We need to adapt best practice for educators' own local context, particularly by promoting the professional development of teacher skills and providing the necessary support. We need to develop strategies to manage change with minimal disruption by articulating a clear vision and plan geared towards academic success, but which also, and perhaps more importantly, provides an environment to foster the social and emotional learning of students. Lesson preparation software, classroom resources, and support services should all seek to repurpose content that has already been created, or which can be built once and then used many times in different contexts, whether it be in the classroom or via distance learning. Ultimately, we need to have a digital-first education strategy that is built to cope now and in the coming years when we may well face new challenges. The classroom has to be the future of education, but the emphasis should be on training and support teachers in order to facilitate hybrid models of teaching and learning, and ones that are flexible enough to cope with any future crises. The recent pandemic has thrown the issue of equity and access into stark relief. While education technology has a significant role to play in enabling teaching and learning when schools are closed, we have to make sure we take a holistic approach, rather than thinking that a mass drive for online education is automatically the answer. In reality, during these incredibly challenging times, people have struggled to access education, and so we have to reassess how we deliver education in these circumstances. And we need to work with what we have got right now. The familiarity and the authenticity of a known teacher delivering lessons from a recognizable setting has far more impact than complex and sophisticated systems that require powerful internet connections and expensive equipment. School leaders and teachers have done a remarkable job in unbelievably trying circumstances. The onus is upon us in the education technology sector to develop and provide the systems and support to give them all the help they need. The State of Technology in Education report provides useful insights and strategies, and the report is available online now. Thank you very much.